Okay, folks, here's a very short lesson on completing the square and how to convert from standard form to vertex form of a quadratic function. So first question, what constant will complete a trinomial so that becomes a binomial squared? A trinomial, I generally mean this style. Okay? Now when I talk about binomial squared is going to look like this. Usually it's two pieces, let's say x plus some letter, I'll just say c squared. Okay? So we want to go from this to something that looks like this. All right. So we have three terms we want to use. The first part, which I've got circled in blue, is called the quadratic term in the standard form. Then the bx is going to be called the linear term. And our final thing, the whole number, is just called the constant term. Those three terms are important. I want to use that vocabulary. Now, to complete the square, the first process is how to go from having two terms, the x squared plus bx, and change that, find the third term to make that binomial squared. So the first step you're going to do is to find b over 2. In this case, my b equals 6, so I'm going to do 6 divided by 2, and that answer is 3. So that's your first step. The second step is take that same term and square it. So I'm just going to go 3 squared equals 9. Now that 9 number is the one which places in the constant term. I put that right here. Okay? Now in order to change that into a binomial squared, if I go backwards, I know this is going to be x. Now most commonly students are going to want to go ahead and try 9 going to 6, which will be 3 and 3. So that's x plus 3. But as soon as I divided by 2, I got that same answer. Okay? All right, now the next part, and let's try one more, just a quickie. If I have this x squared plus, let's change that to x squared minus, and let's go with 16x. Okay? Let me go ahead and put a plus blank right here. And off to the side, I'm going to do negative 16 over 2. That answer is negative 8. Negative 8 squared is equal to positive 64. So inside my blank space, I know that I have 64. When I go to convert this to a binomial, as soon as I divided and got this negative 8, that goes right here. Now next, let's see how it's most useful. Changing the square is basically a skill, and the skill will be used to help us convert from standard form of a quadratic function to vertex form of a quadratic function. So I'm going to show you a couple quick steps for this. Now the most common one is if this a value right here is 1. This a is actually the same exact number. So our steps on this one, first we're going to group it, x squared, the x squared and the bx term. Then we're going to rewrite it, and with a plus inside the group and a minus blank outside the group. I'll complete the square to find the constant, place in both of the blanks, factor the binomial squared, combine the constant, and name the h and k. Let's try a quick example. Let's say I've got this. Let's say I've got f of x equals x squared minus 10x minus 18. Okay? Now my first step, like I said, number 1, is to group it. I'll go ahead and just put this in parentheses. And now I'm going to rewrite it as x squared minus 10x plus some unknown number. and that's going to be grouped. And then I can write minus 18 minus that same unknown number. And then I'll go ahead and use my technique I've been learning about the binomial squared. So off to the side here, I'll write negative 10 over 2. That answer is negative 5. Now I want to square that because that will complete the square, positive 25. So I'll put the 25 right here, add it to this side, and I'll subtract it over here. Now number 4 is factor the binomial squared. So I got f of x equals, now I know that this, if I need to do the diamond, I should be able to do that. Negative 5 times negative 5 will work for 25, added is negative 10. I also found the negative 5 right here. X minus 5 quantity squared, and negative 18 minus 25. Let's see, 20 would have been 45. 2 less than that is minus 43. So the last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and list my h and k. H is the opposite value of the group, so that's positive 5. K is the following number, negative 43. Okay, so this is my vertex form right here. Now what about if there's a negative in front of things? Now this makes things a little more complicated. So we're going to factor out the negative 1, and then we're going to rewrite it, complete the square, but we have to distribute that constant and then do the opposite. Now my notes are a little funny here, so let me be a little more specific. Do the opposite at the end. Well, let's do a good example. Y equals negative x squared plus, let's go with 14x minus 20. All right, now in grouping this, I see that I have a negative x, so I want to bring it out. So I'm going to put a negative outside of the parentheses, x squared. Now, because I'm dividing out a negative, it has to be minus 14x. This will still be added, whatever my completed square will be, and I'll still have the minus 20. And for right now, I'll put minus whatever number I added. We'll see what happens to that in a little bit. Let's do our same deal. I'll still do the negative 14 over 2 to get negative 7. I'll square the negative 7, and I get 49. That 49 will indeed go right here. Now, where it gets different is I didn't really just add a 49 to this equation. Because I have this negative, in reality, what I did was I subtracted 49. So over here, instead of subtracting 49, I'm going to add 49 to offset the subtraction of 49. So when I write my equation, y equals, negative comes right before everything. And I know that dividing by 2, I got negative 7, so it's x minus 7 quantity squared. Negative 20 plus 49 is plus 29. So my h value is the opposite of negative 7. My k value equals 29. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about one more situation, and that's when the a is an integer not equal to 1. So I first factor out that a, just like I do with the negative, complete the square, place it inside the parentheses. Then I want to distribute the GCF first and subtract that number from the general constant, original constant. So let's do one example for this. Y equals 3x squared minus 18x plus 60. So when I go to group these, I don't want to have 3x squared. I want to just have x squared. So I'm going to divide out a 3. x squared minus 6x. I still need to complete the square, so I'm going to put a plus blank. I'll go ahead and add the 60, and I'll subtract a blank. So let's do a little side work to take care of completing the square. I still start with the negative 6. Negative 6 divided by 2 gives me negative 3. Negative 3 squared equals positive 9. Okay, so if I put a 9 right here, that will complete the square for me. However, I didn't just add a 9 to this overall equation. In reality, what happened was I added 3 times 9. So instead of subtracting 9, I must subtract 27. So when I write my final equation, it should look like this. Y equals, the 3 is the A, that comes outside the parentheses. I'm going to have X, I'm going to subtract 3 from there. I'm going to square it. I'll combine 60 minus 27 to get a positive 33. My H value is positive 3. My K value is positive 33. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Bye for now.